High-scoring game for Garrigan last week at Northwood. Let's get into it. Welcome back to BG Game Preview. I'm your host, Lucy Eisenbarth, and last week Garrigan picked up the win at Northwood, Kinsett 61-17. We're going to break it all down and get into this next installment of BG Game Preview while also covering Garrigan's volleyball senior night from last week as well. Before we jump straight into it, make sure to like, subscribe, go follow BG Game Preview. Check out some short-form content on Instagram. We're also going to do a new segment on this episode this week. I had AI generate me the projected playoff bracket for 8-man football this season. We'll also get into predictions like always. So without further ado, let's go. Starting off with Garrigan's 61-13 win, we're going to hit a little recap rewind on this game. Garrigan got off to a hot start right away, like always, going up 34-0 in the first quarter. Score was 48-0 at halftime. This game was dominated by the run. Quarterback Tate Furch did throw 4 passes for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns, and rushing for 29 yards and 1 touchdown as well. Leading rusher for Garrigan off of 5 attempts was Ethan Marceau with 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Leading receiver for Garrigan last week was Weston Rosemeyer with 2 catches for 49 yards and 1 touchdown. And leading the defense last week is senior Carter McGregor with 9 tackles. Looking over at this Golden Bear rushing, we rushed 21 times for 239 yards, average 11.4 yards per carry, and 6 rushing touchdowns on the night. 11.4 yards per carry is a crazy stat line for rushing. It means every single time you get the ball in your hands, you're rushing for a first down. You don't see that very much, but Garrigan is very good at the run. That offensive line can get them a path, and they can go for a lot of yards. Unfortunately, I don't have Northwood Kinsett's team stats in this game, so we will jump over to Garrigan's defensive side of the game. Garrigan didn't have any sacks last Friday night, but did have 2.5 tackles for loss with 3 interceptions. One of those interceptions was by sophomore Carson Kramer. It was almost returned for a pick 6, I believe, but he came up just short of the goal line. Always fun when a defensive lineman gets a pick. Fun overall to see. Garrigan's one kickoff return on the night, I believe to open the half or to open one of the quarters, was returned 79 yards back for a touchdown. The kickoff return was really cool to see, really electric and elite play. I do not remember who had the kickoff return touchdown, so I do apologize, but really cool for Garrigan. Great win for Garrigan. That offense just keeps staying consistent. You've got a great offensive line up there. You got great rushing. Everything just looked on point in this game. Northwood seemed to struggle on the defensive end of the ball and then would get shut out by Garrigan's defense, which also has stayed really consistent throughout the season. This moves Garrigan to 7-0 on the year, keeping them at the number 1 seed as well, and moving Northwood Kinsett down to 4-3. Moving over to our second recap rewind, we're going to recap rewind Garrigan's 3-0 win on senior night versus West Hancock in volleyball. Garrigan won this game very easily. I did have them winning this game 3-1 initially. I apologize again that video did not come out in time, but congrats to them on the win. They won the first set 10-25, won the second set 6-25, and the final set 7-25. West Hancock does not have any stats on here, so we will go look at Garrigan's stats in this matchup. Leader for assists was Rakaya Nielsen with 11. Leader in kills was Emmy Bartolo with 1.7 and 16.7 kill percentage. Leader in blocks was senior Allison Denker with 2. Leader in digs was Gracelyn Eastman with 8. And leader in serve aces was senior Emmy Bartolo. Bound has her as a junior for some reason with ace 1.7. We saw something new from Garrigan. Garrigan ran a 6-2, so they had 2 setters out on the floor and then everyone else. This is something different from Garrigan that they decided to use in this matchup for senior night. Also, due to Madeline Tigas' injuries in the previous games, Alyssa Hogland had not been setting. She had been playing hitter instead, and they had Rakaya Nielsen moved up to setter. So that in the new rotation, and Garrigan seemed to do very well with this rotation, not making many errors. Garrigan finished the night with 17 assists, 19 kills, with only 3 kill errors, 4 solo blocks, 2 block assists for 6 total blocks, 24 digs, 16 serve aces, and a good win on senior night to cap out the year for the seniors and for this Garrigan volleyball team. This moved West Hancock to 2-19 on the season and Garrigan to 9-17 overall. Garrigan has one more matchup on the year versus Algona, who is 15-14, Tuesday, October 14th, which we will look at right now. Looking into the volleyball team's final game of the season versus the Algona Bulldogs, we're going to look at their team stats. The Bulldogs are 15-4 on the year. Looking over into the stat line side of things, the leader in assists for them is Taylor Van Otterloo, a junior, with 355 assists so far. Leader in kills is freshman Kate Limbaugh with 5 and a 26.8 kill percentage. Leader in blocks is also Kate Limbaugh with 24. Leader in digs is Macy Knapp, a senior, with 193, and the leader in serving aces is Kate Limbaugh again with ace.7. Algona is a very, very well-rounded team. They are a very good team for 3A. They do not make many kill errors, as they only have 234 on the year. They have 483 as a team and 424 assists. They're very efficient with blocking as well, with 65 solo blocks and 26 block assists. They're pretty similar on Garrigan's playing field, with serving aces, with Garrigan's 131 and Algona's 125. Algona does seem to have a very smooth, consistent form of play. Everything seems to work together for Algona, and this is things that we have seen in the past from this team as well. They've always been very fluid with their passing to the setter and then to set it up to get a kill. It has always looked very good, and it has always been very, very efficient. You can see this from their record as well. This is definitely Garrigan's hardest game of the year, minus their matchup versus St. Ansgar. Garrigan does have potential to pull off something with this matchup, but it will take a lot. Blocking has to be very on point, and you can't make the little mistakes that you will regret later. If you do make a mistake, you do have to just brush it off and move on as quickly as you possibly can, especially in a big, tough environment like Algona. This matchup is away this year, as Garrigan hosted it last year. You gotta take the kills when you can get them, and you gotta really just look the best that you've looked all season and just play the best that you can in a situation like this. Unfortunately, I do think Garrigan will drop this matchup 3-1 to Algona. Algona's consistency and overall just power will outweigh Garrigan, but nothing is impossible, everything is probable, and Garrigan has a shot at winning this if they get everything together and everything goes perfect. Another thing I'd like to point out with volleyball is that for playoffs/districts, I'm not really sure what to classify it as, the bracket did come out for that. Garrigan plays North Union to start the bracket. If Garrigan wins, they will play number 1 St. Ansgar, who is on a bye week for the first week. This will all happen after the Garrigan-Algona game, I believe next week. Good luck to the volleyball team in these matchups for the rest of the season. Finally, before we jump into the AI playoff bracket, we're going to look at Garrigan's Week 8 matchup, final week of the season, and senior night against West Bend Mallard. West Bend is 2-4 on the season so far, with a loss at GTRA 23-58, a canceled game versus Rockford as Rockford canceled their season, a win 31-14 at Northwood Kensett, a win 58-18 on North Iowa's homecoming, a loss 12-52 on Riceville's homecoming, a loss at Kingsley Pearson 6-65, a loss versus North Union 12-48 on North Union senior night, adds up to their 2-4 record. Jumping into the stat line side of things for West Bend Mallard, junior Trent Morey completed 23 of his 55 passes for 327 passing yards and 6 touchdowns, while rushing for 339 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's the leading rusher for the Wolverines as well. Leading receiver for this team is Abner Zog, a junior, with 12 receptions for 181 yards and 4 touchdowns. Finally, leading defensive player for the Wolverines is Layden Grimm, a senior, with 44 tackles, 5 TFLs, and 2 sacks so far. Overall, as a team, West Bend has 341 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, and 6 passing interceptions. Looking over at rushing, they have 191 rushing attempts for 811 yards, averaging 4.2 yards a carry, and 12 rushing touchdowns. They have 3 sacks on the season, 31 tackles for loss, 0 fumble recoveries, and 2 interceptions. None of these have been pick sixes, and for kickoffs, none of them have been kickoff return touchdowns. Looking at this team, they look kind of pass-heavy while still having a really good run game. They're not in a sense of Garrigan where they do both really well but lean more rushing. They do both kind of okay, as it looks like there are some flaws in this offense, whether that be offensive line or just missed throws, as he is 23-455 on the year. Either way, that could be a big factor in determining this game, as that offense does need to be perfect versus this Garrigan defense. For Garrigan, if they can shut down this West Bend Mallard offense, the game will go very smoothly for them, as I do believe that their offense will just take over like usual. That offense is so consistent, and I do believe that they will be able to run through this defense with no issues. It is also senior night for the Bishop Garrigan Golden Bears, so I do expect a really tough game from Garrigan and these seniors, as they want to perform well for their senior night and end the year off on a good game before heading to playoffs. My final score prediction for this game is Garrigan 65, West Bend Mallard 0. I do think that this Garrigan defense will be able to shut down West Bend Mallard's offense, and that offense will just take every opportunity they can to score. I do think that Garrigan also will try to end this game on a high note and get it rolling before playoffs and carry some of that momentum with them to the first round. That is, if Garrigan doesn't get a bye for being the number 1 overall seed, which we will look at after this. The chances of that are very high, but not guaranteed. Now, let's go see what ChatGPT made me for a projected playoff bracket for this Class 8-man 2025 season. I had an idea to do this AI thing a couple days ago because I wanted to see a projected playoff bracket. After I couldn't find one, I did what anybody does in this generation, and I used ChatGPT to help me. Now, getting into the AI thing, I won't lie, I kind of fumbled the bag with this whole segment, as the AI didn't really do what I wanted it to. I used the prompt, create me a projected playoff bracket for Iowa Class 8-man 2025, and it gave me these results. It gave me a projected structure and what it was using to determine the outcome that it did. This is a mock bracket with first-round matchups, but not all of the teams are filled in, as the playoff structure for 8-man is 32 teams. Garrigan is the number 1 seed and would be playing the 32 seed, with Audubon being the 16 seed, Gladbrook Rhinebeck being the 8, Edgewood Colesburg the 9, Iowa Valley the 4, Belle Plaine the 15, Woodbine the 5, Don Bosco the 12, Wayne the 2, Montezuma the 15, GTRA the 7, Springville the 10, and the 3 would be Audubon's opponent, but it did not give me a clear answer on who that would be, so it is kind of just a mystery. Then for any team or any seeding that I did not say, it hasn't matched up on the side with team and then a letter, so Team X, Team Y, Team Z, as it scours the internet for good teams to put in this, but won't fill it with something random or use scores to make its own prediction. That's the thing about AI, is it is very objective, it's very factual, and there's not a lot of creative side behind it, especially with something like stats. But what kind of saved this segment was the AI putting an illustration of deeper rounds at the end of the prompt. Its quarterfinal predictions were Bishop Garrigan vs. Gladbrook Rhinebeck, Iowa Valley vs. Audubon, Wayne vs. Don Bosco, and Woodbine vs. Edgewood Colesburg for the final 8 teams. Going into the semifinals, which would be the first round of games at the Dome, ChatGPT gave us Bishop Garrigan vs. Iowa Valley and Don Bosco vs. Woodbine. Finally, I just realized there's a flaw in this, which I will explain. For the championship, it put Bishop Garrigan versus Iowa Valley, which can't be possible if Bishop Garrigan plays Iowa Valley in the semifinals. It'd have to be Don Bosco or Woodbine. I just realized that as I was about to say it, but that's okay because the next thing that I asked it to do gave me a different results. The AI was kind of all over the place for this segment. It couldn't really give me one straight answer and or one correct answer. At the end of this, it did say, in this scenario, Bishop Garrigan is my pick as the top seed to reach and win the final, which is good. W from ChatGPT right there, if we ignore the fact that it did screw up 90% of the statistics and the matchups. After this, I asked it to put it in image form into an actual playoff bracket, and it told me to log in, which after that, it erased all of the things I had done, so I had to re-put in the prompt, and I put in the same prompt, create me a projected playoff bracket, and it gave me a different result. It put Audubon as the 1 seed, Team P, which is a placeholder team, as the 16, Bishop Garrigan as the 8, another placeholder team at 9, Edgewood Colesburg at 5, another placeholder team at 12, and placeholder teams for the rest of the list. Very specific and very few teams were picked, and the seedings were all over the place. The funniest part of this entire simulation, though, for the second time around, is that it put Remsen St. Mary's at the 4 seed. For those of you who don't know, Remsen was one of the 7 high school teams that either canceled their season or put it on pause for university football. After week 3, Remsen paused their season as they did not have enough healthy players to continue. I do not know if they resumed play this fall, but Remsen can't make the playoffs as they didn't play half the season. Rockford, like I mentioned earlier, also canceled their season. They were another one of the 7, and we discussed that when we were talking about West Bend Mallard, as West Bend Mallard didn't get their record moved up or down for that game. Moral of the story is, don't use ChatGPT to make projected playoff brackets for anything. It isn't helpful. I do want to give a shout out to a couple of people before I end off this episode of BG Game Preview. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the cross-country runners on their last meet. I do believe that they did very well, and they were finally able to compete as a team since they had enough people. Due to injuries, they weren't able to compete as a team for most of the season. I do not know individual stats either, including places and times, but I do know that Julia Swift got 3rd place, so good job to her. Shout out to the guys as well. I do not know rankings and placings yet again, so I do apologize for that. I also want to give a shout out to some extracurriculars, the Bishop Garrigan Band, getting a high Division II rating at State Marching Band. The scoring for State Marching Band goes Division I, which is the best you can get, Division II, and then Division III. Garrigan got a high Division II ranking, which is almost a D1. So good job to the Bishop Garrigan Band on their performance at state. Without further ado, that is the end of this week's episode of BG Game Preview. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below anything I missed, any people you want to see on the show, or something that you want me to talk about. Go check out my new series, 3 and 30, that I'm going to be posting weekly on BG Game Preview as well, if not weekly, every other week. Go follow BG Game Preview on Instagram to never miss uploads, and to maybe partake in some polls and some other things on the Instagram. The 3 and 30 series will also be on Instagram as well as here on YouTube. Without further ado, this is Lucy Eisenbarth signing off on BG Game